Alan and I realized that if we're not emotionally pulled to interview somebody, it's not going to be a good interview. We've learned that over the years. So we message each other and we're like, hey, we can't do this, right? Like, this isn't going to be good. I'm not really super interested in what this person has going on. It's going to be bad. It's not going to be good.
Even with the 18-year-old client, me at 18 is different than him. So I shouldn't be treating him with the amount of truth I would have wanted, because maybe my goals are different or whatever. My belief is different. My self-worth is different. My circumstances are different.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode number, and hopefully I'll get it correct this time, 1284. What does your anxiety zone feel like today? For episode number 1285, how much of the truth should you tell? Most likely not all of it, depending on the situation. I had some, they're not clients, they're podcasters who oftentimes will shoot me a DM on Instagram asking questions. And they love sending me videos because they know I love sending videos back. So I got a video the other day. And one of the hosts said, hey, Kev, we got a question. We figured you probably have an answer to it. This is our predicament. We are going to have somebody on the podcast, but upon further review, we have realized that they're not super aligned for our audience. What do we do? Do we just ghost them? Do we tell them we don't want to have them on? Do we just tell them the truth that some of their messaging is inappropriate for our audience? And I said, that is a great question. It's a really good question. Been there. I said, what I would do is I would tell as much of the truth as you are willing to accept the response to. So I would tell as much of the truth as the kickback you can handle, pretty much. And I said, here's why. We were, that's probably 2 years ago. We were struggling to find a guest on short notice because somebody had canceled, and we were like, we want to have a guest this week. So we ended up reaching out to one of our buddies and we said, hey, you have anybody that you know that might make a good guest for our show? And he's like, yeah, I'll connect you with somebody. Here you go. This is his name. This is his number. You can do a little research, reach out to him. So
and mind you, this person was very well connected with some very extraordinary guests.
Yeah.
This other guest that we received, we were not expecting.
Yeah, this one wasn't one of them. He wasn't one of the extraordinary guests, unfortunately. So I think it was, we scheduled it. We're like, hey, what do you have in the next couple days? We're trying to get this out this week, whatever it was. And then we were looking at this person's profile. And here's the other thing too. Alan and I realized that if we're not emotionally pulled to interview somebody, it's not going to be a good interview. We've learned that over the years. So we message each other and we're like, hey, we can't do this, right? Like, this isn't going to be good. I'm not really super interested in what this person has going on. It's going to be bad. It's not going to be good. So Alan was like, all right, let's just tell him, we were in a pinch and we did some research and it's not aligned. And I was like, I don't think so.
I was in a very extreme truth-telling. Kind but true. Truthful but kind was the chapter I was in, the season I was in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Alan said, what do you think? Do we just tell him the truth? And I said, I don't think so. Not that I don't want to be truthful and not that I don't have that, not that I don't aspire to be a truthful human being. I don't want to lie to somebody, but I said, we don't know this person at all. If we tell them, hey, we were in a bit of a pinch. We kind of just snuck you in there last minute and we realized we don't really want to interview you. We're sorry. I was like, it could go badly. Like, we don't know this person very well. And we ended up telling the full truth. And this person left us a negative review on the podcast and gave us a 1-star review and wrote some unkind things about us that just aren't true. But that person was frustrated and disappointed and angry at us, understandably so. That's why I told the people who reached out to me, the level of truth that you deliver should be appropriate to the level of truth that you're willing to get back in response. Now, obviously, I aspire to tell the truth. I want to be a truthful human being. I don't want to lie. I don't want to fib. I don't want to white lie. But you have to understand that just because you are trying to be of the moral, you're trying to have the moral value of somebody who always tells the truth, does not mean the people around you are ready for 100% truth. So that's kind of the thought process behind this episode. And last thing before you go, Alan, we used to say the level of the truth is directly connected to the level of the relationship. If Alan comes to me and says, hey man, I've been working out a lot. What do you think? If I know Alan at a deep level, I can say, dude, that ain't it. That ain't it. That ain't it. You're not nearly as good as you think. Where if I just met Alan, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to be like, you went to the gym for 390 days in a row? Like, what? Good for you. Good for you. Where with Alan, who I know
instead of what I got of, I think you're delusional.
Yeah, I think you're delusional a little bit. But that's because of the level of the relationship. So that's another understanding here. The level of the truth, it's I won't say it's safe to do it this way, but the level of the truth should be connected to the level of the trust, love, and history of the relationship.
I also want to share that we also shared a vulnerable truth. We took ownership for the fact that this was our mistake. That's why it was so interesting, because I honestly believed that person would see reverence in that and integrity. I thought this person would react very positively. And Kev, after we got the bad review, he's like, I knew that was going to happen, man.
You could tell by the energy. By the energy.
I think in some ways he's also probably that type of person. Maybe you could tell. I don't know. But if I was to receive that truth, I would appreciate the feedback, and I would say, okay, and can I understand why you went a different way? So he ended up, just to provide context, he ended up like, well, it was good enough for Forbes, and you remember that?
Yeah, I do now.
It's in hindsight. It's like, no wonder why we didn't want to interview you,
right? And joke's on you. I know you can get paid to be featured in Forbes. I get asked all the time. I just don't want to pay. So yeah. I understand now at a deeper level.
Yeah, so Forbes got an extra 500 from you. But anyways, the point of this episode, the place that I wanted to go, is the truth dial. Emilia taught me this, and I'll never forget it. And where is your truth dial at? So you picture, we've all heard that quote: if you can't handle the heat, step out the kitchen. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, a truth dial, I used to have this stove at home when I was a kid that had from 0 to 10 on it. It was an electric stove, and I always picture that little dial, 0 to 10. How much truth can you provide? And I'll give some examples here. I have one client who is 18 years old, and shout out to you if you're listening. I'll keep it anonymous. And I'm giving him challenging truths to keep him in his learning zone. There's a great quote. I think it was Tony Robbins who said it. He said, you will succeed to the level of truth that you can handle. You will succeed to the level of difficult truth that you can handle. Difficult truth about your childhood. Difficult truth about how money really works. Difficult truth about your own maybe inabilities or inadequacies when it comes to being consistent in fitness. Your difficult truth in terms of whatever, right? And that's the mirror. NLU, one of the reasons why we don't grow maybe as quickly as some other shows with as many episodes as us, is because it's a mirror. Brendan Burchard talks about, why don't more people grow? And he said, feedback. When you watch a Netflix documentary, there's no feedback. There's no reflection on you. It's like we all know what it's like to go to the beach and to not want to take our shirt off, or as a guy or as a girl to not want to get in a bikini. It's too much feedback. The sun shows everything, and it's like, ooh, damn, right? Haven't been getting after it. We all understand that. Difficult mirrors are difficult, right? Particularly when you're in a dark place. The last thing you want to do is go look at even more things that are challenging. And so I have to treat my 18-year-old client with a certain level of truth. And if you go back to the last episode, if you didn't listen to yesterday's episode, it was about the comfort zone, the learning zone, and the anxiety zone. I'm 34 years old right now. When I was 18 years old, I have to put myself in my 18-year-old shoes and say, okay, what level of truth would I be able to handle that would be constructive and not destructive? What's the level of truth that's going to be helpful? And I dial my truth dial to that. And I've been guilty in the past of giving too much truth. Kevin's story is a good example of that. Or too little. And again, I don't want this to come off like we're lying or anything like that. The point is this. I have to treat the 18-year-old brand new entrepreneur client differently than my future billionaire client. And one of my clients is 47. She's been through the ringer. She's started multiple businesses. She's got an app. She's amazing. but she's 47 years old and she's been through tremendous adversity, and she literally is, talking to the co-founder of Netflix like every other week as a mentor. Like, I can give her more difficult truths in business than someone who's brand new. And so that's kind of the frame here, is where's your truth dial at? And then the last story I want to share is I had a friend growing up. I'll never forget this. He was really upset with his father because his father growing up said, get away from drugs and alcohol. Don't go anywhere near drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol are bad. Marijuana is bad. Alcohol is bad. Boom, boom, boom. So eventually he tries alcohol and marijuana, as many of us do. I certainly have. And later on, fast forward. Now this person's in their 30s, late 20s. And he finds out that his dad did drugs and alcohol. His dad tried all those things too, even though he got punished when he tried. And so he felt like he felt very hurt. His dad was basically a hypocrite in his eyes of like, you did it. Why are you telling me I can't try it when you're the one who did it and you never told me? And that was the part that I think bothered my friend. And so my friend was upset with his father because his father wasn't as truthful as he would have liked. But if his father was too truthful and said, I experimented with drugs and alcohol, then would my friend have just gone off the rails? I don't know. This is a philosophical discussion. What I told Kev was this. I don't know the right amount of truth in every circumstance. I don't. I do know that I try my best to try to put the truth dial where it's appropriate based on the person, based on the relationship, based on the context, based on what they're ready for, based on what I believe is constructive for me and other people. The only wrong answer that I think is stop contemplating what level of truth you should be at. And very last example here, I was at dinner with my mother this past weekend, and she told me this story. She's like, I went skiing, and she loves skiing, loves it, always has. And she's like, I thought I could ski, and now I'm 60 and I'm overweight, and I don't feel like I can ski anymore. I think that might be the last time I ever ski. She only could do one run. She was joking. She's like, I paid $97 for one run. And I said, Mom, in all honesty, I don't want that to be the last time you ever ski. Do you? And she's like, no. And I said, you can do this. You just are going to have to exercise. And she's like, okay, I got to lose like 30 pounds before I can ski. I said, oh, there's your motivation. I can help you. You have to exercise. And so that was what I thought was the right amount of truth. I wasn't going to go like, oh, I can't believe you haven't exercised for, 20 years and how dare you and all that stuff. No, it was kind of like, okay, you want to ski. I want to see you happy and fulfilled. You love skiing, and let me help you. What is the right amount of truth to make this constructive? And the right amount of truth was you're not going to be able to ski again the way you're used to skiing if you don't exercise. And it's a difficult truth to face, but it is the right amount, I think. And I can't pretend to have always been good at this, but I do think I'm getting better.
Hi everyone, my name is Amanda. I am a dental hygienist and a mom of 2 teenagers. I was first introduced to Kevin and Alan about 3 years ago, where I listened to a live Zoom training. I was really impressed with the value that they packed into that hour-long call, and that led me to their podcast page. I've been blessed to be able to be a student of them in that way through their podcast over the last 3 years, and the growth that I've seen in them, I guess, is what inspires me to keep coming back, because they not only talk the talk, but they walk the walk, and I see the changes in them, weekly, monthly, yearly. So that led me to book a consultation with Alan about 6 months ago, and I showed up to that call in the lowest spot that I've been at in my entire life. The empathy and compassion that he presented in that call and how much work we still got done despite the state that I was in was, again, very impressive to me, and I've been a one-on-one client ever since. Alan is someone that you want in your corner. I have grown so much over the past 6 months in my ability to make decisions, my confidence, the relationships that I have, my organization, my motivation, and I'm only just getting started. I've made so many big moves, and he is the biggest motivator and the biggest encourager, and he is a good human that genuinely wants the best in your life, your future, your love, your relationships, your wealth, and they just want to make the world a better place, and I believe that. And if you have the chance to be in the same room or on the same call or have these two in your life in any way, then you are blessed, and it is a gift. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for everything that you guys do and pour into everyone. And I'm just so excited to watch your journey keep unfolding and to be a part of that in any way that I can.
It is a challenge. I gave somebody on the team really straightforward truth recently where it was like, I hope this isn't too much. I don't think it's not enough. I think it's kind of the right amount, but the only way to really do it is to try. You're going to overshoot and you're going to undershoot. You're going to figure out what's your default. What's your default setting? We had I don't know if it was a mentor, if I heard this somewhere. I don't remember. It's going to sound weird because I don't remember the context of it. But we had a mentor one time who said there's a big difference between giving advice from where you are and then, like, I think he said putting on the skin of the person you're trying to help. Do you remember that?
I recall something of that. So I don't know which mentor.
I don't either. So I'm going to reframe it. I think it's very easy to give truth from the ivory tower and saying, hey, if I was you, I would do it this way. Versus going down to where that person is and saying, okay, where we are right now, in your position, maybe this is the best thing to do. I think maybe that's a good frame. I know when you want to give somebody truth, oftentimes you're thinking from the perspective of the truth that you would want. And that just that's not accurate for everybody.
I've made that mistake many, many times.
Yeah. You're not giving truth to somebody who has the same goals as you or the same anything as you potentially. So I think it's just very important to understand that this is a very hard thing to do.
Well, you've heard the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated. I forget which book it was, but they talked about the platinum rule, which is treat others how they want to be treated, which is another layer deeper. Because even with the 18-year-old client, me at 18 is different than him.
Right.
So I shouldn't be treating him with the amount of truth I would have wanted because maybe my goals are different or whatever. My belief is different. My self-worth is different. My circumstances are different. So, and it's very difficult to know what level of truth to give someone when you've never been them.
Yeah. I remember.
It's very, very difficult.
It is. When I was a personal trainer, one of the things they told me to do is, like, if somebody doesn't want to sign up for a package, you got to make sure they understand if they don't. Like, it was basically, do you want to be around to see your grandkids or not? It's like, I'm not willing to give that level of truth. Because I honestly don't think that's the full truth. I mean, this person's 15 pounds overweight. I think they're going to be fine. You know, I think they're going to be okay. This isn't a dire situation here. I'm not comfortable giving that level of truth. That's not how I do business. That's not how I do sales. I don't want that. That's not how I aspire to show up. So this is a challenge. It's got to
be the right amount of pressure. It's got to be the right amount of, like, it's got to be the right amount of truth. Exactly. That. Yeah. And if you give too much, you're going to tarnish the relationship. If you give too little, the person's not going to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will get better at this. I do know that this has been a weakness of mine for sure. And for anyone out there listening, maybe this is why you've struggled to get along with certain people too. And I think in hindsight, I think people who have really high self-belief, I tend to get along with really well, probably because if you have high self-belief, difficult truths are actually motivating. Whereas if you don't, maybe they're actually just more detrimental. And so if anyone's listening and feels like some of the truths we've shared on this show are deconstructive rather than constructive, I apologize, because that's never been the intention.
Well, the other thing, and it's hard contextually, and the last thing I'll say, it's very... I told this story where there was somebody in my life, I had a friend, and early on when things started to get ugly, I wasn't truthful of, like, hey, the way you're showing up as a friend it's just not aligned anymore. And by the time I told the truth, there was already too much momentum going in the other direction.
Yeah.
So it's almost like how much and how soon should you tell the truth? Because in the beginning, you have to tell less. That's the other interesting thing is if the train just has momentum, it takes far less to stop it. But if that train's cooking down the tracks and has been, it's really hard to stop that thing. So I think it comes to that with truth as well.
Huge mirror episode. Definitely. I don't think, I don't know anyone who doesn't struggle with this. I would say, yeah, it's very difficult to know the right amount to give,
It is.
and something that I definitely want to work on, and hopefully everyone else is inspired to work on as well, because, and hopefully, and this will be the last thing I share, hopefully the people in your inner circle can handle the most truth.
Yeah.
At least the relationship is strong enough to handle that. I know that I want, the person I'm most truthful with in terms of the context of this episode is Emilia. She wants, we do math sessions and physics sessions and business sessions, and she she's been asking, can you be harder on me? I want more. Mm-hmm. And I'm not used to that. But then I'm probably overly hard on people that maybe I shouldn't have been. So yeah, something to dial in, and hopefully you can be your fully authentic, truthful self with the people in your inner circle. And if you can't, that's something to work on. 100%. That's something to work on. 100%. Slowly but surely. Don't do it all at once like Kev did with that friend.
Yeah.
Because I've made that mistake too, Kev, where it's I send a message after years where it's it's too much. Yeah. It's too much. It's yeah, that's the truth, but and their response is screw you, So it's too bad. It sucks.
Heavy one.
Definitely.
Heavy one. Next level nation. This is my truth. If you are close to Massachusetts, if you live in New England and you have nothing to do on April 1st, or if you have something to do, but it's just not as aligned as you'd like it to be, please join us for Next Level Live. I can promise you it will be well worth your time, and it will be an experience that you never forget. And if you are somebody who is into self-improvement and you want to be more into self-improvement, the best thing to do is to dive deeper into it. And that's exactly what we will be doing. Everything you need to know is in the show notes.
So on this podcast, we are able to bring to our listeners a certain layer of truth that is constructive and not destructive. At least that's the goal. Group coaching, Group 10, closes on April 4th. Group coaching is a deeper dive into deeper truths. Bigger mirrors, but you're going to be in a group of people that support you and that are on that train. So if you feel stuck, if you feel directionless, if you feel like you don't fit in, I have one person in my life who says, I wish I didn't have helicopter parents. I wish they had told me more difficult truths because I feel like I've been stunted. My growth has been stunted because they protected me from all these difficult truths. And now I'm dealing with all these things in my 20s and 30s. Group coaching, we are going to present to you difficult truths about what it really takes to succeed at a deeper level than we can on this podcast. And if you're ready for that and you feel like you're ready for that, I promise you it's going to be in a constructive way. And if it's not, you can share with us along the way and we'll make sure you feel supported, which is why we have office hours. So it's a 90-day program, bi-weekly sessions, and then we have office hours with your assistant coach in the off weeks to make sure you feel supported along the way. So there's a private WhatsApp group, you and 9 other people. Please reach out to Kevin or myself. We have a promo code 30% off for listeners only, and it's less than $100 a month for 3 months. So it's totally affordable on purpose. Please reach out as soon as possible.
Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 1286, finding the places you fit in. We talked about this a little bit in one of the previous episodes, but one of the biggest struggles in our community is people finding a place where they fit in. So Alan and I have been blessed where we have co-created that. And if you're in the community, you've found that. But how do you find that otherwise? Where do you look for? How does that show up in your life? We're going to talk about that. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. We are grateful for each and every one of you. Alan's getting ready for his sign off. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Stay classy, Next Level Nation.